The new Monday Night Wars format kicked off 2000 with Rock opening the new millennium on January 3rd in front of an hometown crowd in Miami, on a night set to see Nitro going back to 2 hours from 8 to 10, with Raw set to have the second hour unopposed with a potential massive audience boost expected from 10 p.m. going forward, with Vince Russo who pushed for the move back to go the full 2 hours head-to-head with the thought of not wanting to hand the WWF record audiences on a weekly basis to its already most watched hour of television, with the first week of the new experiment confirming both sides, with Raw's second hour spiking huge to over 8.1 million viewers and the most watched hour since July '99 and the fifth most watched hour overall in show history, with the WWF in anticipation of the new potential viewing pattern loading up the second hour from start to finish, with the first crossover top of the hour segment seeing a Big Show vs Triple H WWF title match with a major title change on television of Hunter winning the title, with the idea of hooking Nitro viewers who are used to watch the show until 11 p.m., with the match either in a coincidence or a strategic layout ending exactly as Nitro went off the air at 10:06 p.m. to see the quarter, despite having 9 minutes unopposed, only picking up around 500,000 viewers at the top of the hour to go from a 6.7 to 6.9 rating, with the hour building throughout on the way to the main event featuring Rock vs DX in a 3-on-1 handicap match with Rock's career on the line, seeing the match crossing into the first unopposed overrun to jump over 1 million viewers to a massive peak of a 7.6 rating with over 9 million viewers, with the big viewership spike for the Raw main event indicating that the WCW audience will tune in depending on the attraction as opposed to automatically watching whatever is on Raw. And after going off the air with a huge audience on January 3rd, near-record viewership carried over to January 10th from the first quarter, with the opening segment seeing the entire roster coming out unannounced, followed by Rock to deliver the message in the ring, opening Raw huge with a record 6.8 rating, the highest ever for a regular Raw, only behind the 7.3 rating for the first quarter on the Owen Hart tribute show in May '99. With the pattern from the first week continuing, as Raw again only got a major spike for the main event, which saw the 8-man tag match jumping over 1.3 million viewers to peak the night with a 7.6 rating. With Raw now not only having the potential boosted viewership but also the usual January pickup at the end of football season, seeing January 24th indicating that the peak of the boom has yet to come, with the company still trending upwards, as the show coming a day after the Royal Rumble pay-per-view exploded to record levels, with the broadcast breaking the record set on May 24th as the most watched Raw in history on an opposed night and second overall, averaging over 8.2 million viewers, this time with the Nitro format not a factor in numbers, with interest peaking from the start, with Raw hitting a 6.8 rating with over 9 million viewers 15 minutes in for Rumble winner Rock's follow-up promo in a confrontation with Big Show and Hunter, setting up the main event handicap match, with Raw's second hour, which averaged over 8.5 million viewers in the third most watched hour in Raw history, only behind the 2 hours on May 10th. Also featuring Taz's TV debut in a segment with Kurt Angle, along with a Jerry Lawler Mae Young segment in the follow-up to the Miss Rumble contest, entering the 7 rating range, while seeing the main event starting already past 11 p.m. in the overrun to peak the record broadcast huge with over 9.2 million viewers, with the WWF coming off airing 3 Super Bowl commercials during the main broadcast the previous night, as if it needed more ammunition, benefiting massively from the past 2 weeks of WCW chaos, to see Raw on January 31st opening with a major angle of the Radicals making their TV debut in the company while being placed all over the show alongside Mick Foley, to lead to a show closing segment of them laying out Hunter in the overrun to a 7.3 rating, with Raw's top match of the night placed in an unusual spot to go head-to-head with Nitro's final quarter, seeing the first Rock vs Kurt Angle match in Pittsburgh, with Rock ending Angle's undefeated streak taking place already in the first hour to draw the highest rated opposed quarter of the night, 6.7 rating, closing January 2000 as the second most watched month in Raw history with an average of over 7.5 million viewers. 7 days after the Radicals' Raw debut, a show-long angle on February 7th which first saw them turning heel on Mick Foley in an over 20-minute opening segment was set to feature their first ever match on Raw in the main event, turning from a 5-on-1 to a 5-on-5 throughout the night, with Rock arriving to the building to open Raw's second hour, announcing himself as Foley's partner, followed by the three members of Too Cool joining seconds from the start to set up the 10-man tag, with the match in front of a hot crowd at the Reunion Arena in Dallas gaining over 1.6 million viewers to peak the night with a big 8.1 rating in one of the hottest and highest rated matches in show history, totaling over 9.1 million viewers. With Raw in the middle of one of the hottest rating streaks and viewership figures in cable TV history for any genre is set to start at 11 p.m. on February 14th due to the now much lower rated Dog Show, returning to its regular time slot with a massive show on February 21st in front of over 28,000 people at the Georgia Dome, starting hot with the stadium erupting for the opening segment, which saw Rock burying Triple H's now routinely lengthy promos with a classic impersonation to a huge reaction, kicking off Raw back at 9 p.m. with over 6.5 million viewers, with Raw on a night which saw the show taking a hit to its lowest rated show of the year so far, averaging 6.5 million viewers after breaking the viewing habit, closing back into the 7 rating for the main event 6-man tag match of Rock, Foley and Kane against DX, gaining over 1.2 million viewers to a show-high 7 rating in the overrun in Foley's last ever Raw show as a full-time wrestler. With the follow-up of the No Way Out pay-per-view in another major venue with the second ever Raw from Madison Square Garden, seeing the show rebounding big to jump 1 million viewers over last Monday from 6.5 to an over 7.5 million viewers average, staying steady throughout the broadcast with no major movements featuring outside of the Foley retirement follow-up with a career tribute video package airing to a standing ovation from the New York crowd. Rock involved in the 3 top segments, including working 2 matches on the night, first confronting Show and Hunter in the opening quarter doing a near-record 6.7 rating with over 7.7 million viewers, followed by a match against the Brooklyn Brawler in a rematch of Rock's first official WWF match to open the second hour with a 6.5, before closing the show with the Rock vs. Show and Hunter handicap main event jumping over 1.1 million viewers to a peak 7.2 rating with over 8.4 million viewers. The build-up to WrestleMania 16 saw Raw in March 2000 staying steady at record levels throughout the month, with viewership remaining consistent in all 4 weeks around the 7.5 million viewers range, seeing the biggest individual hour coming at 10 p.m. on March 6 with over 8.1 million viewers, driven by 2 massive spikes for the top 2 matches of the night, first with Rikishi vs. Triple H placed at the top of the hour seconds after Nitro went off the air, and after the last several weeks of barely seeing any difference between the opposed and unopposed hours with almost no crossover between the two audiences. Raw with Rikishi vs. Hunter along with Rock running in for the finish saw the show jumping huge with over 1.5 million viewers from a 5.9 to a 7.2 rating to gain approximately 50% of the Nitro viewership watching the finish, followed by the main event peaking even higher with Rock vs. Benoit in their second singles match against each other after the first one did strong numbers at over 12 a.m. on the preempted draw on February 14th, going 11 minutes in a cage to jump over 800,000 viewers to peak the night with a 7.3 rating and over 8.6 million viewers, with March 13th seeing one of the hottest endings to any show in WWF history, with Raw on the night headlined by Rock putting his career on the line against Big Show's WrestleMania title shot in the main event, building up the hype over 2 hours with Rock and Big Show coming out at 10:54 p.m. crossing into the 6-minute overrun, ending up with the TV return of Vince McMahon after over 3 months to count the pinfall for Rock as the building exploded in one of the most memorable endings to Raw in show history, gaining over 900,000 viewers to another peak 7.3 rating. With the following Monday coming after the past 2 days of massive mainstream exposure, with Rock becoming the first wrestler in history to host SNL in a major promotional vehicle for the WrestleMania pay-per-view and the WWF in general, in a career breakthrough performance that saw him drawing the show's highest rating of the season, peaking with over 20 million viewers. Raw on March 20th continued the string of strong main events, with the company promoting The Rock vs. Hunter vs. Big Show WrestleMania main event to take place on television, seeing the entrances taking place 6 minutes from the top of the hour, with the match crossing over longer than usual into a 9-minute overrun, going 12 minutes in total to gain over 1.3 million viewers to the third consecutive 7.3 rating peak, but with boosted viewers per home totaling a month-high figure of over 8.7 million viewers in the overrun, which included the post-match return of Mick Foley to come out of retirement for one night to set up the 4-way elimination match in 13 days. With the WWF closing the road to what is expected to be the biggest pay-per-view in industry history in 6 days at WrestleMania 16, with its most-watched show of the month averaging 7.7 million viewers, opening with an over 20-minute promo segment featuring the entire McMahon family, followed by all 4 participants in the Mania 4-way, running in to bump the show to a 6.9 rating in the second quarter, in Raw's highest-rated opposed quarter in over 2 months, building to a massive main event tag match for the WrestleMania Go Home segment, with Rock and Vince McMahon teaming for the first time against Big Show and Shane, to see the match spiking over 1.2 million viewers to a peak 7.6 rating in the most watched segment of the month, drawing over 8.8 million viewers, with strong momentum heading to Sunday in what is targeted to be a record-breaking night for the company. 24 hours after an all-time record pay-per-view at WrestleMania 16, all-time industry milestones continued to Monday night, with Raw opening huge for the follow-up after the swerve of McMahon turning heel on Rock in the main event, seeing the first quarter with Vince's promo explanation and Rock arriving to the Staples Center, opening the show with a record viewership of over 8.5 million viewers and the biggest audience to ever tune into Raw from the start, with Raw which set up a show-long angle on the way to the main event of Rock against either Vince, Hunter or Shane, staying steady at record levels throughout the broadcast to hover around the 8.1 million viewers range, with his first promo since the WrestleMania turn coming at 10:30 p.m. building up his response coming in the Raw headliner, with the Rock vs. Shane match, which saw a 3-on-1 brawl with Vince and Hunter in the main event, picking up over 1.7 million viewers to a peak 7.6 rating with over 9.8 million viewers, one of the most watched segments in show history, with Raw overall drawing over 8.1 million viewers in the third most watched broadcast in cable TV history. Continuing the fallout from WrestleMania with the first Rock vs. McMahon promo confrontation since the turn, opening Raw on April 10th on a night seeing boosted intrigue in the industry for one of the most hyped nitros of the year, with the debut broadcast of the new Eric Bischoff-Vince Russo WCW regime putting on a loaded show to jump to a 3-month high 3.1 rating. Headlined by a Rock vs. Bossman and Buchanan in a handicap cage match, picking up over 1.2 million viewers to a peak 7.4 rating. With the build-up to Backlash going to the next level on April 17th, with Raw opening fast advertising a Triple H vs. Jericho title match to kick off the broadcast before going on the air, setting the stage for an all-time memorable Raw show, with the Jericho vs. Hunter match ending with Jericho winning to a huge reaction, followed by the post-match segment of Hebner reversing the decision, bumping the show over a million viewers to a 6.7 rating in the second quarter, with the big segment of the night coming 30 minutes later, with Linda McMahon, after hyping a major announcement for the past hour, coming out to announce Steve Austin's return in Rock's corner at the Backlash pay-per-view, followed by Rock coming out minutes after the top of the hour for a promo reacting to the announcement, to lead to a rare situation of Raw peaking already at 10 p.m., as the segment, which saw the mega-hot Penn State crowd exploding throughout in an all-time great spectacle, spiking over 1.8 million viewers to a show-high 7.7 rating, with over 9.2 million viewers to close one of the hottest hours in WWF TV history, while driving the second 10 to 11 p.m. hour to average a near-record figure of over 8.6 million viewers. And with the current WWF boom period already setting all-time records in every aspect of business on almost a monthly basis in the past year, with the realization in the company and the industry in general that this might be a once-in-a-lifetime peak that would likely never be reached again, April 24th answered the question on if it can get any higher to set the bar with a previously unimaginable milestone. with the broadcast driven by a huge interest boost for the final build-up to the Backlash pay-per-view, recording the first full hour in history to enter the 10 million total viewers range, in an unprecedented figure not only for the WWF but cable television in general. As with everything set in place for one of the biggest shows in company history on Sunday, Raw was built on Rock and Vince McMahon's final selling promos to the event, with Vince, after being off television in the past week, arriving to the building to open Raw's record second hour for his first response promo on Rock and Austin teaming up in 6 days, recapping the last week of storylines, talking about Austin and Rock's history to stir things up and turn them on each other, with the Vince promo taking place in the 10 p.m. quarter minutes after Nitro went off the air, seeing Raw picking up huge with not only additional viewers but the vast majority of the WCW audience tuning into Raw to spike the show to a massive 8.1 rating with over 10.2 million viewers, the most watched full quarter hour in Raw history, with the record-setting night not ending there, as half an hour later Rock responded to Vince's comments in the final hype promo to the pay-per-view, targeting the final payoff to the year-long title chase, followed by the main event closing the show with a Rock and Jericho vs Triple H and Benoit tag match going 7 minutes into the overrun, with the match along with Rock's pre-match promo jumping over 1.6 million viewers to peak the night at an 8.6 rating with over 10.7 million viewers, the highest viewership ever recorded in show history, with Raw overall driven by the unprecedented 10 million viewers hour drew an all-time record on an opposed night with a 7.2 rating, making April 2000 with an over 8 million viewers average the most watched month of WWF programming in history and the highest monthly average ever seen on cable television. The culmination of Rock's year-long title chase on May 1st concluded a record-breaking month for the company, coming off the payoff last night in one of the biggest spectacles of all time, with Raw with peak interest expected on the night already hitting over 8.3 million viewers by 9:20 p.m. for the McMahon's faction follow-up promo in the second quarter, almost quadrupling the Nitro audience head-to-head with a 7.1 to 1.9 rating margin, with Rock arriving to the Baltimore Arena seconds after 10 p.m. picking up Raw to a near-record 7.9 rating for his first babyface title win promo after ending the year-long title chase, setting up the main event with Rock vs Shane in a title cage match, with Raw already at over 9.4 million viewers for the Rock-McMahon confrontation, with Raw's overall second hour remaining around the 8 rating range to average over 9.6 million viewers and the second biggest viewership total in show history, only behind the record 10 million viewers hour the previous week, as Rock and Shane came out at 10:50 p.m. with the entrances and start of the match during the final quarter jumping to a near-record 8.3 rating, which outside of the May 10, 1999 show, which went unopposed all night, was the second highest rated quarter in Raw history, only behind the 8.4 rating for the Rock Mankind This Is Your Life segment on September 27, 1999. Going 7 minutes past 11 p.m. to gain over 1.6 million viewers in total to a 9.1 rating with over 10.8 million viewers, the most watched match in Raw and cable TV history, closing out the record night with Raw drawing its second highest rated show and the biggest in Monday Night Wars history with a 7.4 rating overall. And with Rock off television for the first time in years, with him set to make his movie debut filming a cameo role in The Mummy Returns, Raw dropped from the blockbuster numbers of the past month to a more routine figure by 2000 standards of 7.2 million viewers on May 8, building the show around Chris Jericho as the top babyface in Rock's absence, with him working 3 matches throughout the night to mixed results, with the show in an unusual situation peaking already in the second quarter for the faction in-ring promo doing over 7.9 million viewers, before closing the last several minutes of the show with a 6.9 rating peak for a Benoit vs Jericho title match in the overrun, with Rock returning on May 15 being placed in the 2 highest profile time slots of the night on a show opening with Shawn Michaels making his TV return in a confrontation with Vince McMahon. First with a promo against Hunter and Vince accepting the challenge to start the hype for the 60-minute Iron Man match on Sunday in a segment jumping over 900,000 viewers to a first-hour high 6.5 rating, followed by the main event on the night with Rock vs Benoit gaining over 1.2 million viewers to peak the night with over 8.3 million viewers and bump Raw back into the 7 rating range for the first time in 2 weeks. Setting up one of the memorable show-long angles in history the day after the pay-per-view on May 22 for the follow-up of the Iron Man match at Judgment Day, which also featured the return of Undertaker after over 8 months, with Rock taking out the entire faction over the 2 hours in the build to the main event segment on a show which hovered around record territory from start to finish, starting and remaining over the 7 rating and 8 million viewers range throughout the night, with Rock after running through every member of the faction outside of Triple H finally coming out with 15 minutes to go in the broadcast calling him out to the ring, starting the show closing brawl with the entire faction returning to set up Taker's first TV appearance since September '99, ending up with Taker and Rock taking out the faction, with Rock laying out Hunter to close one of the hottest Raw shows of all time, with the final segment which started at a 7.6 rating, jumping over 1.8 million viewers to a huge 8.6 rating with a peak of over 10.5 million viewers to lead Raw overall to its 4th most watched show to date. Closing the month with Raw in Vancouver promoted to be headlined by a huge match with Rock vs Undertaker and his first match back booked for the main event in the opening segment with a big star power confrontation, with the show on the way to the match also seeing 2 title matches for the IC and European titles, with Kurt Angle vs Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit vs Hardcore Holly drawing in the 6.5 to 7 rating range, with Rock after not only closing a record-setting month for the industry but with him also individually having the highest average rating ever recorded on primetime weekly wrestling television, seeing the promoted Lumberjack match against Taker turning into a brawl that jumped another 1.2 million viewers to a peak 7.7 rating. Raw on June 5 opened with a unique viewing pattern facing strong competition from Bill Goldberg's TV return match after 6 months on Nitro going on at the same time, leading to Raw with a Triple H promo starting with its lowest opening quarter of the year 4.7 rating and the closest margin between the shows since December '99, before rebounding over 1.5 million viewers minutes later with Rock, Kane, Taker and Vince all coming out to a 6 rating, with Raw which started the build to the King of the Ring pay-per-view with several qualifying matches, seeing the second hour built on 2 major matches, first with Rock, Taker and Kane in a 3-way #1 contender match picking up over a million viewers at the top of the hour to a 6.1 rating, setting up the main event an hour later with Rock vs Triple H going 10 minutes for the WWF title, jumping over 1.5 million viewers to a peak 7.6 rating and over 9.3 million viewers in the overrun, with Raw spiking huge the following week back to record territory with the full broadcast averaging over 8.5 million viewers, seeing Rock opening the show in front of over 17,000 at the Kiel Center in St. Louis, continuing the build-up to the King of the Ring main event 13 days to the pay-per-view, calling out all involved from Taker and Kane to the faction, ending up with Kane coming out first to take the challenge and set up Rock vs Kane for the main event, with Raw after setting up the top matches for the night in the opening segment picking up viewers at a massive rate in almost every quarter throughout the next 2 hours, starting with the first of 3 promoted major matches with Vince and Shane against the Dudleys in a tables match taking place in the 9:45 to 10 p.m. quarter to close the first hour, which in a coincidence saw it going head-to-head with the top promoted match on Nitro featuring a Flair vs Russo Hair vs Career match, to see both matches picking up strong with the Russo-Flair match jumping over 700,000 viewers, while the McMahon's-Dudleys match drew a 6.7 rating in Raw's highest-rated opposed quarter in over a month, with Raw's second top match seeing Triple H vs Chris Jericho spiking big from a 6.5 to 7.7 rating in the highest-rated full quarter of the month, with the show from that point not falling below the 7 rating range, with the second hour overall drawing one of Raw's most watched hours in history with over 9.2 million viewers, peaking huge for the Rock vs Kane main event, with the entrances starting a few minutes before 11 p.m. with the match crossing into the overrun, picking up over a million viewers to a peak 8 rating with over 10.1 million viewers in one of the most watched matches of the year. with the next week after the massive peak the previous Monday going back to more routine numbers mainly focused around a series of matches in the final build-up to King of the Ring, with the final qualifying TV matches and all three title challengers, with Kane, Taker and Rock working three separate handicap matches during the second hour, averaging over 8 million viewers, peaking for the third one with Rock vs Test and Albert headlining the show in the only segment to enter the 7 rating range on the night, peaking with over 9 million viewers. With the day after the pay-per-view on June 26 seeing interest spiking back to record levels, with the 5th most watched broadcast in show history with over 8.5 million total viewers, on a night seeing the company shifting the direction of the top TV storylines, with Vince announcing that he's going home with Rock, sending him off TV, and the official end of the McMahon-Helmsley faction storyline, setting up his replacement in another big promo segment less than an hour later, with new King of the Ring Kurt Angle's coronation segment interrupted by the return of Shawn Michaels to announce Mick Foley as the new WWF commissioner in a confrontation with Angle and Hunter, in a segment jumping over 1.5 million viewers to open the second hour with a 7.1 rating. Setting up the main event with a Rock Angle Hunter three-way match for the title, with the overall second hour on the way to the match picking up huge to over 9.4 million viewers in the 4th most watched hour in show history, culminating in the main event with Rock, Angle and Hunter going 9 minutes, crossing over to the 6-minute overrun to jump over 1.5 million viewers, peaking the night with an 8 rating and a huge near-record figure of over 10.7 million viewers for the majority of the match, in one of the 3 most-watched matches in Raw history, to close another peak month for the WWF boom period, averaging around 8 million total viewers. After viewership took a temporary hit on July 3, coming on a holiday weekend, on a show establishing the WWF's new product direction to set up 3 fresh top feuds with Angle vs Taker, Hunter vs Jericho and Rock vs Benoit for the title, Raw shot back up in one of the biggest week-to-week viewership spikes in cable TV history on July 10, with the show picking up 2 million viewers over last week, seeing the broadcast starting out huge with over 7.4 million viewers for the follow-up Benoit-Shane Rock confrontation, with the show picking up viewers in every quarter, with the second hour featuring a Kurt Angle Undertaker segment followed by a Trish vs Lita street fight and a Jericho vs Triple H angle, ending with a DX swerve to lay him out in a quarter, hitting a 7.2 rating between 10:30 to 4:45 p.m. with the second hour, which averaged over 8.8 million viewers in another near-record number, headlined by a promoted Rock vs Benoit main event and the fully loaded pay-per-view preview, going 5 minutes into the 6-minute overrun to bump Raw to a peak 7.4 rating with over 9.6 million viewers, closing the pay-per-view build-up on July 17 with Raw's big segment of the night coming at the top of the hour, with the Rock vs Benoit feud taken to the next level 6 days from their pay-per-view main event, first opening Raw's second hour with the Rock and Acolytes vs Benoit, Edge and Christian 6-man tag match, followed by a wild backstage brawl all over the building to end with Rock laying out Benoit on a limousine before him and Shane escape the Pepsi Arena, with the quarter for the 6-man tag followed by the post-match segment gaining over 800,000 viewers to a 6.5 rating, on a show seeing Raw headlined by a Taker and Kane vs Hunter and Angle tag match starting already past 11 p.m. to peak at a 7 rating, with July 2000 peaking on July 24, getting the post-pay-per-view boost today after an all-time great fully loaded pay-per-view to average over 8.2 million viewers, driven by a huge second-hour spike seeing the broadcast shooting up almost 2 million viewers from hour to go from 7.3 million in the first to a 7.5 rating, with over 9.2 million viewers in the second and the 4th most watched hour ever for wrestling on cable television, with no quarter during the hour falling below the 7.3 rating range, starting with a Big Show heel turn to join Shane's group with a beatdown on Taker, along with a Jericho Triple H confrontation in the follow-up to their last man standing match, followed by a triple team for the tag titles into Trish vs Lita strap match, continuing to climb throughout, picking up to a quarter-high 7.7 rating in the final quarter, with the main event entrances of The Rock and Kane vs Angle and Benoit tag match taking place at 10:54 p.m. along with the first 3 minutes of the match, going 9 minutes to jump over 1.2 million viewers in total to a peak 8.4 rating in the 6-minute overrun. One of the top 5 most watched matches in Raw history with over 10.3 million viewers. With Raw remaining above the 8 million viewers range the following week in a big Raw from the Georgia Dome, closing the show's near all-time record month that would have possibly been on track to be the most watched in its history if not for the first show coming on a holiday weekend on July 3rd, climbing throughout with a first-hour high 6.4 rating featuring an Edge and Christian vs. Hardy's tag match going 5 minutes to continue the build-up for the Triple Team WrestleMania rematch at SummerSlam, followed by Raw's top-of-the-hour quarter jumping over a million viewers to a 6.6 rating for a Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit vs. Studley's tag match going 7 minutes, headlined with a Rock and Lita vs. Triple H and Trish main event to see the entrances taking place less than 5 minutes to the top of the hour, with Rock coming out for the first time on the night at 10:58 p.m. to start the match almost already in the overrun, going 6 minutes with the match showing massive interest spiking huge in minutes way above the overall show's average to jump over 2 million viewers from a 6.9 final quarter to a peak 8.5 rating averaging over 10.7 million viewers to end up one of the most watched matches in Raw and wrestling on cable television in history. The build-up to SummerSlam picked up momentum on August 7th on a big Raw from Madison Square Garden, with Rock days after a major crossover appearance as one of the headline speakers at the Republican National Convention kicking off the show in front of the New York crowd selling out the Garden for a record 14th consecutive time in the past 2 years, calling out Benoit and Shane to set up a Rock vs. Benoit title match for later tonight, with the loaded top-of-the-hour segment first seeing the triangle storyline of Angle Hunter and Stephanie continuing with Mick Foley booking Angle Hunter and Jericho in a #1 contender match for the main event, followed by Rock and Benoit coming out minutes later to go 8 minutes for the title, bumping Raw over 1.2 million viewers to the peak quarter of the night 7.1 rating with over 8.6 million viewers, with Rock coming back out less than an hour later for commentary with his SummerSlam opponents set to be named in the three-way main event, seeing Angle Hunter and Jericho going 7 minutes in the overrun to jump over 1.1 million viewers to a peak 7.8 rating with over 9.4 million viewers, with August 14th seeing Raw continuing to get the massive second-hour viewership spikes with the 10 to 11 p.m. hour, which also featured the surprise TV return of Vince McMahon since going home in late June, warning Angle and Hunter averaging over 8.2 million viewers and an over 1.5 million increase over the first hour, with the show peaking with a 7.2 rating for the main event 6-man tag match of Rock and the Dudleys against Hunter, Angle and Shane, with Rock making his first appearance on the night almost past 11 p.m. to go 6 minutes in the overrun, peaking the broadcast with over 9.1 million viewers, with August 21st in several ways signaling on an end of an era on a show that can be called Raw's unofficial final night of the peak viewership boom, with August 2000 the last full month to air on the USA Network while coming before the time slot preemptions in the next 2 weeks, seeing Rock opening the first Raw show in the Cajun Dome to a massive ovation with a promo 6 days to SummerSlam in a segment picking up over 1.4 million viewers over 2 quarters to a 6.2 rating, with the broadcast not only the most watched of the month but also ending up the final full Raw to enter the 6 rating range in the final WWF show on cable television in general to average over 8 million viewers, building up to the main event of Lita vs. Stephanie for the women's title with Rock as special referee, ending the build-up to the pay-per-view on Raw with Rock, Angle, Hunter and the Hardys all involved in the finish to lead to Lita winning the title, with the overrun jumping over 1.7 million viewers to a 7.7 rating with over 9.8 million viewers, and figures that circumstantially were never reached again, with Raw set to start at 11 p.m. for the next 2 weeks followed by the network change 2 weeks later. With September 25th now set as the official date for the TNN move after solving the legal issues to start the huge promotion to the debut show, Raw was back to its regular 9 p.m. time slot for the first time in 3 weeks, with Rock in a confrontation with Mick Foley teasing a heel turn as Austin's car driver in the build to Austin's full-time return in 2 weeks, before setting up a tag match with all three of his title contenders at the headline match of the Unforgiven pay-per-view, starting back with a 5 rating, with the show which hovered around the 5 to 5.5 rating range throughout the first hour, averaging 7.2 million viewers, then spiked huge to near record levels in the second hour to see the show overall drawing over 7.8 million viewers, and a strong sign of interest for the company, with September usually taking several weeks to get the full audience back to August levels, with a 10 to 11 p.m. hour featuring Triple H and Kurt Angle working 2 separate matches to continue the feud, followed by the main event tag match of Rock and Taker against Benoit and Kane, jumping over 900,000 viewers to peak the night with a 6.8 rating. As with Raw now expected to take a hit going against the start of football season, Raw's second-hour viewership still remained at record levels and ended up the most watched hour of the week on cable television, averaging over 8.5 million viewers to outdraw the football game on ESPN, with the main event tag peaking big with over 9.2 million viewers. And with the final legal hurdle being sorted Monday afternoon, September 18th officially became the final WWF Raw show on the USA Network to officially end the company's 2-decade relationship with the network and kick off a massive advertising campaign and a week of hype to build to the company's move to Viacom, with JR just as Raw went on the air acknowledging the move while continuing to mention it in every single segment of the show to notify viewers who tune in at any hour about the channel switch, with Rock arriving to the Allstate Arena at 9:30 p.m. in front of a sold-out crowd in Chicago for the company's 14th consecutive sellout in the building, in a segment with Taker, Foley, Benoit and Kane doing the highest rated opposed quarter of the night, 5.8 rating, with the top of the hour segment seeing Angle and Hunter vs. Testa and Albert tag match doing a show high 6.1. Before closing the final USA Raw with The Rock vs. Undertaker main event bumping the show over 1 million viewers to close the broadcast, heading into a massive week for the company, with one of the biggest pay-per-views and TV shows of the year coming in back-to-back nights next Sunday and Monday.
It's the most popular show in the history of cable television. Is War. And now, this weekly primetime hit is moving to TNN. Raw is War. Same night, same time, new home. TNN. Same attitude. Raw is War. Beginning this Monday night at 9, 8 Central on TNN.
After an unprecedented media blitz from Viacom in the past 6 days, with cross-promotion between 5 networks airing commercials in all hours of the day to get the word out to as many viewers as possible, the first ever Raw out of the USA Network, and perhaps the most hyped show in its history in terms of mainstream media hype, opened fast with Steve Austin out first for his first Raw appearance since November '99. Kicking off a loaded show planned by the company for its TNN debut to capitalize on the buzz and maintain as much of its regular viewership despite now airing on a lower-rated network available in less homes across the country, with Austin's promo recapping the state of the WWF and his absence in a segment with Foley, Benoit and Angle, opening the first ever quarter on TNN with a 4.8 rating before picking up for the continuation of the segment in the second quarter to a 5.5 rating with over 7.1 million viewers. And with the company going all out for the debut broadcast, Raw's loaded card featured Edge and Christian against the Hardys in a ladder match for the tag titles, placed in the first top of the hour quarter on TNN, with the first half of it going head-to-head with a Vince Russo vs. Booker WCW title cage match on Nitro to a 4.9 to 2.7 rating margin, before spiking over 1.6 million viewers unopposed to a peak 6.2 rating in the most watched quarter of the night and the biggest audience to ever tune into TNN, peaking with over 8.1 million viewers, with Raw's overall second hour averaging over 7.4 million viewers between 10 to 11:08 p.m. and an all-time milestone for the network, but way below Raw's usual numbers during its peak run, with anticipation to see where's the new ceiling of the show going forward. Headlined with the guaranteed strong combination of Rock vs. Benoit for the WWF title, and as it did throughout the year was put in another high-profile position to headline the first TNN Raw, jumping over 900,000 viewers to a 5.9 rating in the first TNN main event to see the broadcast overall breaking all network records, drawing a 5.4 rating with over 7.1 million viewers, the most watched broadcast in TNN's 17-year history. With Raw's new reality on its new network starting to be clear, with what was once a routine number on the USA Network is now a record number on TNN, with a significant difference between the reach of both channels despite being available in a similar number of homes. Raw's first ever full month out of the USA Network since going on the air in 1993, combined with it already being the toughest TV season of the year in the fall with heavier sports competition on Monday nights, seeing the show taking a significant hit to average 6.4 million viewers during October, with the realization that the ceiling is now much lower compared to the peak of the boom period of just a few months ago. With Rock opening the second TNN broadcast, calling out Kurt Angle in a 25-minute segment, jumping over 1.3 million viewers throughout to a 5.3 rating to build to a loaded top of the hour quarter at 10 p.m. First with a Rock and Rikishi vs Benoit and Kane tag match going 7 minutes, followed by Mick Foley coming out for a promo in a segment with Steve Austin and the returning Billy Gunn to continue the car driver investigation, leading Raw to a massive spike of over 1.8 million viewers to the top quarter of the night's 6 rating, with the overall second hour on the night headlined by Triple H vs Kurt Angle averaging over 7.3 million viewers, only slightly below the record TNN hour of the previous week. With Raw having its most watched broadcast of the month on October 9th, built around the payoff of Austin's car driver promised to be revealed by Foley throughout the night, building up the intrigue from the first segment with Shawn Michaels making his return, hinting to Foley that Rock was the driver, with the Michaels-Foley segment opening Raw with a 5 rating in the highest rated opening quarter so far on TNN, and after 2 hours of hype setting up the reveal in the main event, first with a Rock and Rikishi vs Kane and Angle tag match kicking off at 10:52 p.m. to signal to viewers that a follow-up segment is coming up, with Foley yet to make his reveal, with the match going 10 minutes to cross over 11 p.m. for the finish, with Foley immediately coming out with both Rock and Rikishi in the ring, revealing Rikishi as the driver, with the end of the tag match in the Rock-Foley-Rikishi segment jumping over 1 million viewers to peak the night with a 6.4 rating, with over 8.1 million viewers in the highest rated segment so far in the TNN era. In just 7 days after drawing a month-high figure of 6.9 million viewers in the second most watched show in TNN history, only behind September 25th, Raw now established on TNN, with the effects of it in terms of where's the ceiling of the network becoming clear by the week. October 16th took a hit to its lowest rated show since the peak of the boom started, dropping below the 5 rating range to see the broadcast over its 2 hours averaging 5.8 million viewers, raising questions on if the days of targeting all-time record numbers are in the past, with the show remaining consistent throughout, largely ranging from a 4.7 to 5.2 rating, focused on the final build-up to the top 2 matches of Rock vs Angle and Austin vs Rikishi on the No Mercy pay-per-view in 6 days. With the day after the event seeing the show rebounding strong for the fallout to go from the year-low 4.8 the previous week to a TNN high 5.5 rating. Starting stronger from the start, with the fallout of the pay-per-view seeing the Rikishi-Rock confrontation kicking off the show over half a rating point higher with a 4.8 rating, growing steadily throughout the next 45 minutes before jumping over 1.3 million viewers at the top of the hour for Kurt Angle's title win celebration, drawing the peak quarter of the night with a 6.1. Setting up Mick Foley booking his first title defense in a 3-way against Rock and Hunter in the main event, jumping to a big 6.6 rating, the highest rated segment so far in the TNN era to drive Raw to its highest rated show since the final week on the USA Network. Closing the month with a loaded show from the Fleet Center in Boston, with the WWF promoting one of the biggest cards of the year with TNN commercials over the weekend advertising a double main event of Austin vs Rikishi in a cage and Rock vs Jericho for a title shot against Kurt Angle on SmackDown Thursday, saved for a loaded-up second hour with Austin vs Rikishi kicking it off in Austin's first TV match back in almost a year and his first match on Raw since a match against Billy Gunn on November 1, 1999, with the Austin-Rikishi feud blow-off match jumping over 1.2 million viewers to the peak of the night 5.6 rating, with Raw continuing with the big star power second hour featuring, in addition to Foley announcing Deborah as his new assistant, an impromptu Kurt Angle vs Triple H match, followed by Rock and Jericho hyping their match minutes from the main event in one of the most memorable promo exchanges of the year before going 7 minutes, crossing into an 11-minute overrun to a 5.3 rating. With the days of major boosts of viewership on a weekly basis in the past, at least for the foreseeable future, Raw had its most consistent month of the year in November, with every show holding steady in the same 5 rating and 6.4 million viewers range, opening it with Vince McMahon making a surprise appearance in an unusual promo encouraging viewers to vote in the US election day on Tuesday, followed by Austin coming out in the first Austin McMahon interaction on television in a year, setting up Austin and Rock teaming up in the main event 4 days after exchanging shots on SmackDown in the gradual build-up to WrestleMania 17, with Rock minutes from the match being taken out backstage in a pre-match angle to see the Austin against Angle and Rikishi match, followed by the reveal of Triple H behind the car attack to turn back heel, picking up over 1 million viewers to a 5.7 rating. Closing the build-up to Survivor Series on November 13th, with Austin coming out at 10:13 p.m. for the final selling promo on a night seeing Raw headlined by 2 6-man and 8-man tag matches in the top time slots of the night, drawing the 2 top quarters with 5.3 and 5.5 ratings, first with Angle legend Christian vs Undertaker and the Hollies at the top of the hour, and the main event, which saw Rock and Austin teaming up for the first time in over a year along with Gunn and Chyna against the 4 members of the Radicals, followed by a show-closing angle of Rock and Benoit brawling in the parking lot to see Rikishi taking out Rock with a sledgehammer in the go-home angle to the pay-per-view. Coming off Survivor Series with Austin confronting Stephanie after taking out Hunter with a car the previous night to set up the first ever Austin vs Benoit match in the main event, with the match taking place almost 2 hours later seeing Benoit challenging Austin to a straight wrestling match designed as Austin's first in-ring singles match since coming back, going 9 minutes to pick up over 400,000 viewers into the 8-minute overrun to a 5.3 rating, on a night seeing the broadcast peaking midway through with Rock and Jericho vs Rikishi and Kane tag match doing the biggest viewership jump of the month with over 1.2 million viewers to a show-high 5.5 rating, in a quarter also seeing the follow-up of the Kurt Angle swerve at the finish of last night's Angle vs Taker title match, with Kurt coming out with brother Eric Angle to explain the situation before being confronted by Taker. With Raw despite remaining in the same routine 5 rating range for the overall show on November 27th due to starting lower than usual, the second hour on the night jumped big to over 6.9 million viewers in the most watched hour in over a month, averaging a 5.5 rating to peak for the big main event, with Austin's promoted first title shot in over a year in the first ever Angle vs Austin match, going 9 minutes, crossing into the 8-minute overrun to peak with a 5.6 rating and over 7.1 million viewers. With the ratings on TNN steadying at the 5 rating range combined with the road to WrestleMania coming up, Vince McMahon's TV return was the big segment promoted on December 4th in a hyped State of WWF address to boost things up heading into 2001. Building up to the segment throughout the night, trying to talk Austin, Rock, Hunter and Taker out of the 6-man Hell in a Cell match, on a show seeing perhaps the most talked about segment of the night, coming with Rock cutting an all-time memorable promo backstage to hype the 6-man Hell in a Cell match on Sunday, running down his 5 opponents to a massive reaction to Raw's highest rated opposed quarter in the month with a 5.2 rating. With the Vince segment after almost 2 hours of hype starting at 10:55 p.m. recapping the last several months of Mick Foley being in charge of the company to bring out Austin, Rock and Taker, for the response in a segment jumping over 700,000 viewers to a show-high 5.4 rating. And with Raw despite the usually guaranteed Vince McMahon spike for the heavily hyped segment still remaining in the same 5 rating range, December 11th coming off the all-time memorable 6-man cage match on a full unopposed night with Nitro preempted on TNT, Raw finally broke through with a massive spike over its recent average, seeing a Kurt Angle legend Christian opening segment in a confrontation with Rock and the Dudleys to set up a 6-man tag match for later tonight, opening big with a 5.2 rating and an over a full rating point increase over last week and Raw's highest rated opening segment overall since July. with the over 21-minute segment gaining throughout, jumping over 800,000 viewers to a 5.8 rating in the second quarter, with the entrances for the hyped six-man tag match taking place at 9:51 p.m. to drive Raw into the 6 rating range already in the first hour for the first time since before the US Open preemptions and move from the USA Network on August 21st. With The Rock and Dudley's vs. Angle Edge and Christian six-man tables match going 8 minutes to jump over 600,000 viewers to the peak of the night's 6.1 rating with over 7.7 million viewers, making it the most watched quarter on a Raw broadcast since its debut night on TNN, while seeing the second overall hour averaging over 7.3 million viewers and also the most watched Raw hour since September 25th. Headlined again by a Vince McMahon segment placed to cross into the overrun after a show-long angle demanding Mick Foley to resign as WWF commissioner, bringing out Foley minutes later, followed by Steve Austin making his first appearance at 11:06 p.m. to see the 21-minute segment going over 10 minutes and the overrun picking up over 900,000 viewers to a 6.1 rating, with Raw overall drawing its highest rating since September 11th and the highest rated show in the TNN era with a 5.8 rating with over 7.2 million viewers, breaking the viewership record set on the debut show on September 25th as the most watched broadcast in network history, with Raw after the record broadcast taking a hit over the next 2 weeks coming on holiday weekends to bring the monthly viewership average down to the lowest of the year, with December 18th seeing in addition to the top match of the night again taking place midway through the show with Taker and Rock against Edge and Christian to win the tag belts, gaining over 1.3 million viewers to the peak quarter of the night 5.3 rating, followed by Austin vs. Regal placed at the 10:30 quarter to a 5.2. The continuation of the McMahon vs. Foley feud with Foley booking McMahon to challenge Angle for the title in a promo picking up over 1 million viewers throughout to a 4.7 rating, with the Vince Angle match ending in a swerve with both turning on Foley to lead to Vince firing him to be back in full control heading into 2001 to see the match in post-match segment jumping over 600,000 viewers to another peak 5.4 rating. Before closing the year in a special Christmas night of Raw on December 25th with Rock after a milestone year with almost every record in the business set to new heights along with unprecedented mainstream spotlight on the industry headlining the show in the main event against Taker, with the match along with his pre-match Christmas promo gaining over 600,000 viewers to peak the night with a 4.3 rating.